Doop doop doo 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 doo. All right, guys, how's it going? I'm making a follow-up video to a live stream I did earlier. Kind of tapered off at the end. It was long, and I'm going to try and make a video that's a little bit shorter. Hopefully, some people watch it and think that it's pretty cool. And yeah, and give me some comments and stuff. So, anyways, I'll just go back and explain what's going on here. So, there's links down in the description. Check the thing out. But basically, there's a YouTuber that has made this program that simulates evolution. It makes these little creatures. I'll explain what's on the screen here in a minute. But so it makes these little creatures, and they have nodes and muscles connecting them. And then they also have like these functions that take information from the nodes, do stuff with it, and then feed the output into the muscles. Sometimes that makes them expand and contract. Sometimes it makes them jiggle around all crazy and all this stuff. Makes 1,000 creatures to start just randomly, and then the goal is to the creature to get away from the start and go towards the right. Um, and so what it does is it judges at the end. It runs a simulation for 15 seconds of all 1,000 creatures, and at the end, it creates a variable that is it's like fitness. And you can mess around with that and change it. I'll get into that in a minute here too. But basically, it says, okay, this one went the furthest away from the start, so it's the winner. Whatever. It keeps the top 500, kills off the bottom 500 with a couple of variations that, some of the weaker ones get to survive, some of the stronger ones actually die. The ones that are left get to reproduce. They reproduce asexually, so they're basically trying to copy themselves to make their children, but there's a random mutation factor in there. So every once in a while, a node might change, what it does, or like the friction or the strength of the muscle might change, or it might even like add a node or subtract one, or same thing with muscles. And the functions might change what they do, blah blah blah, whatever. So basically, right now I'm still running the simulation. If you watch the earlier live show, I started at generation 200 and I let it run for a while. I was really hoping some stuff would jump out and all of a sudden get like awesome, but I've been running it for, I don't know, a couple hours off air now, and really nothing has changed. So I'm just going to go ahead and summarize what happened. So I will scroll back here to the beginning. And in the very beginning, you get all these different creatures and whatnot. Actually, maybe let me just grab the graph here real quick. So this graph is showing basically the distance away from zero, and it does have negative. And then this red line is the median creature. The line on top's like the 100%, and the line on the bottom's the 0%. So that's like the absolute best, the absolute worst. There's a bunch of lines in the middle which are all scrunched together now, but they're the different percentiles of, 90% of the creatures did worse than this or better or whatever. So to give you an example, this was like the very first run. This was the median creature. It just kind of flopped down, and that was about it. Now, one of the things I changed in the program was I'm not worried just about the distance of X. I wanted to make sure the creatures didn't wiggle around a whole bunch and waste a bunch of energy. So basically what I did is I took the variable for energy used, which is displaying on the screen here, and subtracted that, actually multiplied it by 0.05, and then subtracted that from the distance that it went to get a final fitness. So you see this one was the worst creature, and that's basically because it's moving in the negative direction, which is hurting it, and it's wiggling around a whole bunch, so it's using a bunch of energy. So now you're subtracting even more off of the fact that it went backwards. Now, as you go through time, if you see down here, all these different colors, it might be hard to see because it really got squished, but these different colors are different types of creatures. See, this one's got 4 nodes and how many muscles? I can't read that. Five muscles. So 4 nodes, 5 muscles. And it's wiggling around and it's actually kind of crawling to the right a little bit. So that's cool. This one's 4 nodes, 5 muscles. This one is 5 nodes and 6 muscles. Um, so it's flopping around and using a bunch of energy, not going very far. So that's wasting a lot of energy, and it ends up getting like selected away from it. Over here, the red line's the median, and then these bar graphs are showing the distances that all the creatures went. So as you move through time, let me get like in here when the triangles reign supreme. This says 3 nodes and 3 muscles, and that was about the best it could do. Was one little jump away. Again, that was the median. The best one. This is actually starting here. It's actually kind of starting to crawl. It's being weird, but this is the beginning of the 5 node, 7 muscle, which ends up basically taking over for quite a bit of time. This is 45 generations in, so it's still, I want to say learning, but it's not really learning. It's doing random, but this is, the creature is getting better at completing the task that I set out for it, which is to crawl to the right and not use very much energy. So you see it's still pushing along. All the inputs are telling the muscles to expand and contrast, and it is using energy, but it's also getting somewhere, so it's being efficient. Um, anyway, so once I start going over more, let's say about 100-ish or whatever, then you can see this thing's actually starting to perform pretty well. It gets a rough start, but once it starts going, this is the part that kind of impressed me, is it actually is starting to crawl. And it's pretty much using one leg a lot more than, if you call it a leg, but it's using it a lot more than one of the other ones. And the front legs are still kind of hitting the ground, keeping it stable. You have the other node up top that's, a point that the muscles are able to pull against to be able to lift up those back legs and then push them back down. So it's actually it's starting to move quite a bit. It's doing pretty good. And at this point, you can see in the graph, most of these creatures are these green. They're all very similar. There's a couple of these like blue ones that are still around. The purple ones still kind of exist, and the median's starting to catch up to the max. Now, once you get over, actually, there's an interesting thing that happened here. The 5 node 8 muscle got a bit of a rise. You can see down there at the bottom. It started to rise up and then died back off. So I guess whatever was in there, they were starting to perform almost as well as the other one. Um, Here's actually an example of of what it is, but this is in the worst creature category. So maybe that extra muscle is using up energy and not really helping it move that much. It's just kind of wiggling on the ground. And again, the best one is really starting to get going now. So it looks like it had a little bit of a slow start. It starts limping along a little bit, and then it kind of starts finding its groove, and it just chugs along, and it's walking, doing pretty good, and it's really crawling along the ground there. One other thing I noticed that well, the YouTube name, I should have mentioned this in the beginning. I apologize, but YouTube is Carry Hitler. It's Carykh. So there you go. But how about that? One of the things I noticed with his simulations when he was running it is a lot of times there'd be one node in the back and 3 or 4 nodes up front doing like a pinwheel kind of thing. And like it's dragging its back leg, if you call it that, and the front ones are just going like crazy. And that's why I was kind of impressed with this one, is because I see it's starting to walk pretty good. I mean, it's kind of limping if you could imagine it that way. But I really wanted to let this thing run and really see what it could do. So it does start getting a little more length. The median is starting to catch up to the maximum, and then from about here all the way to the end, it's just flickering. And you can tell by when you look at the worst creature, median, and best, they're all very similar. And it seems like about the only difference with the worst creature is that it ends up having a bad flop to begin with, and so it doesn't get as good of a start as the other ones do. See that white node that in the other one you maybe call it the head or something. This one it's on the ground, so it's not able to pull up and lift those back legs up like this one is doing. And it's just a matter of its starting position. These ones happen to start in a way that, they flop down and then they start inching along and kind of crawling. And I was really hoping if I let this run for a long time, that second back leg, the red node, you can see it just kind of being dragged along. It is getting lifted up off the ground when it moves forward, so you're not having necessarily the drag, but it's never pushing and pulling. So it's really only walking with that one leg, and the front ones are keeping it stable. I was really hoping one of the random mutations would turn that node into the same type as the one that's moving back and forth, and all of a sudden it'd be walking with two legs. And then I think it would really start taking off. And this is the best one from generation 496. So I wanted to make this video just because I thought this was really interesting. Actually, let me show you like a one generation thing. Now they're all going to be very similar because, like I said, I just let this run and run and run. And if you see from the graph there, it's not really changing much. I mean, the median's about like 4.7. It goes up a little bit, goes down a little bit, but basically the maximum. Well, let's see what was the maximum on this one. 4.98, and then the median's 4.6. So the median and the max are pretty darn close. I was really hoping one of these creatures would just take off and bump that maximum up, but I think you get a little improvement right here. Yeah, 5.1. But it's not really developing. This one looks almost the same as the generation 300. It's still kind of dragging that red one behind. It is only using the one leg to jump back and forth, and it's using those front ones to keep it stable. In fact, it almost kind of lost that little bit of leaping at the front that some of the other ones were doing. The other ones almost started looking kind of like a little frog jumping, where it actually was pushing off with the front legs and the back ones. Again, if you can call them legs, these are obviously very abstract creatures. But okay, go away. Why is this still showing? There we go. So I ran it for 767 generations because, that seems like a good even number. But let me show you what happens if you do. I'm just going to do one quick generation. If you do step by step, it basically, you have your 1,000 creatures that it got from the previous ones by killing off 500, making the 500 new ones. But then it creates all of them, and then it runs through the animation, kind of like this one's showing, but full scale, and it goes through all 1,000. And you can change the speed of the playback, but it still just takes way too long. So if you do the quick generation, it still generates all the things. It runs the simulation. I'm trying to sort it right now, and then this animation is very laggy, so I'm trying to skip it. So now this is the absolute best one, and then down here is the absolute worst one, which my guess is it just kind of flops around. Yeah, so it just fell down, and again, because of the way that the nodes fell, that white one is not able to get the input into the muscle to have it start pulling. And then somewhere here in the middle, it probably kind of hops, but not as great, is my guess. So each time you do this, like I said, it makes all these creatures and then tests them out. You could watch them all step by step, but then it'll give you this display. You hit sort, and I'll show you here what I mentioned earlier. When you kill 500, see how a couple of the bad ones, they stayed alive, and a couple of the good ones actually died. So that adds a little bit of randomness where it's not perfect, and that's supposed to be like that. And then they reproduce. So all the ones that are alive are going to try and copy themselves. but it made these new ones now that are all slightly different from, the original ones. So now we're at, 768, or you can hit do one generation ASAP. And basically what that does is it runs through the whole thing. So right now it's testing all those thousands that we have. It's figuring out the best ones. It's sorting them. It's killing off the 500 and it's making 500 new ones. So basically it's just all happening in the background. And eventually here it's going to go bloop and it's going to give us a snapshot where it's got the best creature, 5.2, the median creature, 4.79, and then the worst, which is a -2. So it's probably flopped backwards a little bit, or it didn't move that much but used a whole bunch of energy, which, like I said, I subtract energy use trying to discourage the really twitchy type of movement, because that just doesn't seem very. Oh, that's that pinwheel kind of effect that I was talking about. Only it has that extra node dragging it down. But did you see how those front three were circling around each other? I mean, he's actually moving pretty good. He's just using a whole bunch of energy. Got what, about 2 meters? Oh, we're still halfway there. So, I mean, it might actually go kind of far, but it's using way more energy than the other one is. Oh, is it going to start dragging itself backwards? That's going to hurt it. See, this is all wasted energy. And I want to discourage that, because in the animal kingdom, if you just run around jumping and twitching but never eating food or anything, you're wasting energy and you're not going to survive as long. And then he lays down for a nap because he got too tired. Not really. Or you can hit do generations as long as possible. And that's actually what it was doing when I first started this video. It just keeps running through that process until you click on something. So right now it's going to start running again. And anyway, so part of the reason I did want to show that. So if you go to the link in the description, you can get to this actual simulator. In fact, I might as well show you the stuff now because it was neat and it looked cool. But if you click up here, you can actually get to the source code. Now, once you do that, you're going to start. You have to start over a new simulation. So this is all the source code, which I don't know what half of it means, or probably more than half. But down here, set fitness. Average x times 0.2, that's because of his scaling to make that the into meters. Then I just subtract the energy times 0.05. Now you could put in anything. He actually has a thing in there for like nausea, which is a measurement of how fast the nodes are accelerating around each other. That was his solution to getting rid of the twitchiness. It seemed to kind of work, but I didn't really like it. I just figured let them twitch if they want. I mean, if you jump and you jump 50 meters, it used a bunch of energy, but hey, you jumped it, you got very far, so fine, that works. Like I'm okay with that. I just don't want twitching for no reason. So that's where the energy penalty. What I found is if you make this much more, even over like just the full energy, like 1 energy or 2 or 5 or like anything. Actually, I think I did 0.5 energy one time. And basically in fact, I'll just do it right now and show you. I'll run a couple simulations. So 0.5 energy, that's all I changed. Instead of 0.05, it's 0.5. And then you run the simulation. So we're going to start. Now, this will be kind of cool because then you can see some of the stuff that it does. So those are our creatures, and this is going to have a lot of different types. So I'm just going to do a quick generation. So I don't have to do the step by step, but I can kind of hover over and get the small view of what worked, what didn't. Anyways, because you're getting such a penalty for using energy, let me sort it real quick. Oh, then I'm going to have to skip it over here. Skip. Come on, come on, come on. Anyways, because you're wasting because the energy penalty is so much, all of the winners just kind of flop over. So that used 0 energy, but it got 0.16 because it takes the average position of all the nodes. And then the worst one probably bounced around a little bit or fell backwards. Yeah, see, it's moving. It's using a bunch of energy, which is really hurting it because it's not getting it very far. So, I mean, it's trying, but because energy use is so detrimental, um, go ahead, you kill them, reproduce, and then go back. Um, what I found, let me just run this for a little bit, and we can watch the creatures here. Um, again, they're trying a bunch of different body plans, which is neat. But what I found, I ran this out to a few hundred generations and whatnot, and even at that point, the best creature were the ones that just toppled over to the right. There was such a desensitization to using energy because it hurt their final score so much that anything that even tried to jump, twitch, move, whatever, was getting killed off because it takes a little bit once it's twitching to figure out exactly which twitching is worth it and which one isn't. Um, and they die off way too soon. You also see here like the worst ones are getting very high negative scores, if that's a thing, right? Magnitude is they're going very negative, and those are probably the ones that not only went to the left, but also bounced around like crazy. So I don't know, I just want to check this one out because it looks interesting. Yeah, see it's bounced around like crazy and it has a negative score of 92.9. And it's actually going, well, maybe it's going to turn around and say it's actually going in the right direction. So this is like almost a start of, hey, these guys are moving in the right direction. They're getting good locomotion, but this part's really killing it because it's not moving anywhere, but it's sliding those nodes back and forth, just using up a bunch of energy. And so our winner is still Mr. Boring Dude, who falls over and uses no energy. So even though this guy went further to the right, he got such a negative penalty that it wasn't really worth it. So I've been playing around with the factors. I've been adding, different things. I've even tried at one point. I didn't worry about energy or anything. I just wanted to look at the speed away from the start. So I didn't care if it was to the right or to the left. And basically all I did is I just took the square root of the exposition squared. So that that turned it positive and then went back to the regular number. So um, even if it went to the left, it would still get a high score in fitness. Yeah, this guy's actually moving pretty good, but anyways, like I said, it's not worth it. Um, so I did that, and I thought it'd be kind of cool to see like two species that like a group of them that all went to the right really fast and a group of them that all went to the left really fast. And then like they'd both survive, and only the ones that got stuck in the middle would end up getting killed off. But what ended up happening is from the transition from the kind of the twitchy folly over stage into actually jumping and wiggling and walking, or in that transition, the ones going left learned how to actually move faster than the ones that were going towards the right did, and basically it killed off because of the favorability of having a higher score. It basically killed off all the ones that even fell to the right because those weren't worth it. So nothing ever learned to twitch to the right because the ones going to the left just started going to the left better. And again, as you run this out further and further, they really start stabilizing to like a certain body plan and just kind of fine tuning it. But like I said, I ran that other one for so long because it was so close to getting two legs walking, instead of this kind of limp crawl type thing. I really wanted to see that node magically change. And this is where I'm going to be hoping that people that are familiar with this program or familiar with these videos could maybe help me out because I am not a programmer. I took one class in college in C++. So like I kind of understand what programs look like. I don't remember any of the syntax stuff, but I know that you make a variable and you can have a thing that sets it, and then you can do if-then statements that call back to that. But I haven't looked at the source code enough to really figure out. So let me just basically say what I want to do, and I'll probably mess around with some numbers and see what happens, and maybe I'll stumble upon it. But I really want the mutation rate to go up a lot more. Like, I would really like to see a triangle be able to give birth to like a 5-noded 7-muscle thing, or the type of node. And I guess I didn't really explain all that stuff because I don't remember all the different variables the nodes can be. So again, if you're watching this, please go look at the video in the description and check that guy out. Awesome stuff. I've just found these videos actually, and I just started diving in head first. So, anyways, this is my first attempt at really messing with it, basically. But crap, what was I saying? I don't remember. Oh, I want the mutations to be a lot more because I would like to see more revolutionary stuff. Oh, I was talking about the nodes. Yeah, so they can pick from being like a coordinate or a pressure sensor or a timer or different things, and then the yellow things are the actions that take inputs from the nodes and then put an output onto the muscle, telling it what length it's trying to be, if it's trying to stretch out or shrink in. I'd really like to see something that's doing pretty well, but then give rise to an offspring that like the other node completely changed. Like it's no longer a pressure sensor, it's now a X coordinate sensor or something. And I don't see a lot of that really. Once you start running, I mean, the number of generations changes every time based on what kind of comes out. But even on this, you can see from the species point of view on the bottom right, or I'm sorry, bottom left, it's these other types of creatures are starting to become favorable and they're really starting to take over. And so once you kind of hit that plateau, as you saw from what I would call a successful crawling creature, even the worst, the median, and the best had the same color nodes, the same types, the same muscles. It's just it's kind of luck of the draw if it fell at a little bit different starting position, if it would get going or not. And I'd really love it for one of those to grow a second arm and then take off running. Like, that'd be awesome. But I don't think his program is set up to have that much variability. And I'd like to just mess around with it and see if I can figure out how to make it even more. So again, I don't know if there's a limit based on, the child has to be within 10% of the parent or whatever. I don't know how that's all set up. But anyway, so we've been running for a little bit. I'm just curious, what's our little best creature now? Because this was supposed to show you an example of stuff that just kind of flops over. Because last time I ran this scenario, I ran a few hundred generations. This one's actually moving quite a bit. So I don't know, maybe this time it will start better. There's something in the code too. You can change the starting position or whatever. I just know to change the number. I have no idea what the numbers mean. If bigger numbers mean more stuff or less or whatever, I have no idea. But somehow you can mess around with that to kind of get a different starting set, and then it goes from there. Because sometimes if you start with the same starting set, like, you end up getting the same creatures over and over and over again. Even though there is randomness in there, but like I said, there's not tons of randomness, so I don't think mutations pop up as crazy as might happen in the wild. Although, and again, in the wild, you don't see a cat just all of a sudden having 5 legs and, becoming the only type of cat in the world and taking out all the other ones because having 5 legs is better than 4. Like, it's very rare to get a brand new structure or lose an entire structure. It's all very gradual, which is why most animals have like 4 limbs and a head part and a middle part. Like, fish have a head part and a middle part and have a couple of fins and a couple in the back, and like those turned into crawling and walking and blah 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 whatever. But it's like it's the same kind of basic structure. Like, it's almost the same nodes and same muscles, although the numbers change a little bbit. But anyways, it's kind of similar to real life evolution. But screw it. I want crazy evolution where, maybe the earth is radioactive and stuff's growing new limbs and losing stuff one generation at a time and just becoming crazy. So I'm gonna dig in, try and figure out how to do that. But anyways, like I said, I just wanted to really just make this video because of the first part, and encourage people that didn't watch the live stream. I don't blame you. I ended up sitting around letting it run. I really underestimated how long it takes to run these generations. I had ran a couple hundred while I was doing other stuff on the computer, and I think by the end of the simulation, I was up to, I don't know, I forget what I was at the live stream. Another couple hundred, like I was maybe at 400. But near the end, I was just babbling on, kind of like in this video and whatnot. So I'm actually going to go ahead and cut this off. And please, please, if you're familiar with this, comment down below and, help me out. And if you have any suggestions and stuff, I'd love to try it. Link me to videos where you tried this stuff and you got a cool result. I mean, I really want to see a lot of these things. Carrie's gone on to do bigger and better things. He's making 3-dimensional stuff that can chase after food and all this and that, but that source code isn't available. So this is still like the only stuff that's available to play around with that he put out into the world as like an open source kind of thing. And I'm trying to give as much credit as possible because, like I said, I don't even understand how this stuff works. I just think it's really cool. So please check out his videos. If you stumbled upon this and you think it's kind of cool, I am not doing it justice explaining how it works. Go watch. I'd suggest a couple of like the very first ones to see the initial stuff, and then watch specifically the video I posted in the description of this video, which is where he basically says, okay, this program's free to the world, and here's a couple things you can do. And he explains how to change a couple of things and then says, okay, go have fun. So go watch that one to see all of the updated features. But I like the first couple just to see the roots where it started from and some of the problems he was running into and then how he tried to fix that. And anyways, yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and I'll check you next